I don't know if there's a strategy maybe to figure out more quickly if someone's not right for you rather than waiting that full 1.5 to 2 year period.
Yeah, I think there's some obvious signs where you're really gonna like destroy your life pretty badly if you get involved with a gal. So, a woman that's violent, for example, would be a good example. That's one of the red flags. So, um, I've dealt with guys that have gotten married to women or lived with women, just because they love bomb. A lot of times they're pretty crazy too, So it's a whole confusing crazy for love. They'll throw things at them. They've thrown knives at them. They've been stabbed with forks. Um, if a woman demonstrates that she's violent to any degree to you, you should get rid of her quickly. Like it's not even an option to date her. Like even becoming friends with benefits or any of these like short term, like arm's length sort of relationships is a bad idea, because if she doesn't get her way and she throws one of her hissy fits and becomes violent, the cops show up. It's probably not her that's going to be hauled away in cuffs in the back of the cruiser and spend the night in the slammer. It's probably going to be you. And there's men that I know that have lost their opportunity to graduate as a licensed medical professional because they invited a violent woman into their life in a relationship, and they were suspended from school and were unable to complete because of the charges. Or guys that were educational, professionals, and they got thrown out of the school system because of a false domestic violence charge. I mean, if you're around children all day and a woman claims that you're violent, unjustly, makes it up, then you've lost your job, right? So there's lots of areas where a bright red flag should definitely not be ignored. I think most of these you should pay attention to, and you should only overlook if she's working on them. For example, let's use, a woman that's got like an addictive, personality. I've dated a woman at one point who loved going shopping for things and would bring them home and to try them out and, return them. It wasn't uncommon for her to be like, oh, I just bought these 7 lamps to test them out by the nightstand, and I want to see which one looks best, and I'm going to bring 6 of them back. And it's like, okay, you've got a shopping addiction. Like, this is a little bit of a problem if you're spending your entire week spare time out of work in the return line at customer service to bring shit back that you didn't like because it didn't fit with your decor. If she's a good gal and she doesn't have any of the red flags, then I would, point it out and not consider making her the mother of your kids or even living with her until she dealt with that problem. I don't know if that's her going to counseling or getting help, or it could be a drug addiction. It could be a smoking addiction. It could be an alcohol addiction. Like any kind of addiction, some of them are worse than others, obviously. But again, like, if you want the best life possible, find a gal that doesn't have any of these red flags, or it's something simple, like extreme jealousy is one of the red flags on the list. A certain amount of jealousy is good. Like, you want her to have some competition anxiety, to feel somewhat anxious that you're out there in the world doing things. Where is he? What could he possibly be doing? Who is that random girl 17 feet away from him in the background? That's when that starts pushing into like weird areas where it's like, who is that girl in that photograph, Robert, that was 17 feet away from you, giving you like the cut eye in that photograph that you posted the other day, or that I saw on that media piece? That's when it starts to get weird into the strange area. And that's when you like, that's something that she has to deal with, right?
Yeah.
Her being a little bit jealous or anxious about you traveling is fine. But if it's her constantly blowing up your phone, checking in on you, randomly calling you, then it becomes problematic and it becomes difficult for you.
Oh, yeah, that totally makes sense. I wish we'd had this conversation years ago. I once dated a girl that we had just started dating, and she would look at old, like multiple years old Instagram posts of mine. So like, we had just met for a couple of months. She's looking at posts that I put up 2-3 years ago. She would see what girls liked the post, and then she would like be researching these girls and then asking me about them. I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
Doing all day. Like, I just got home from work and you've been sitting here running a private investigative firm on Instagram. Very weird stuff.
Yeah, the female mind is interesting. It operates very, very differently, and it takes a lot of past involvements with other women into consideration. And like, a healthy woman would see that other women have engaged with you and do have desire for you, and just think to herself, okay, this guy's a top shelf man, pre-selection. Obviously, other women dig his vibe. I'm very happy to have him in my life. But it starts to lean into crazy when they start doing things like that, and then following these random girls, maybe even DMing them and hey, you look familiar. Did we go to university together? Just to sort of, spark up a conversation and see where it goes. And then the similar, connection with Robert Breedlove sort of pops up in it's not that uncommon. Like, when women like you, but there's a little bit of a crazy, to that like when it goes that far.
Yeah. Well, when they're picking fights, like, come on, she's picking a fight with me about something. Like, how is this even a topic?
That's drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a drama queen. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you mentioned this topic offline, this notion of genuine burning desire.
Mm.
What is that, and how is that something we should be looking for in our romantic partners? Is this a male to female only, or female to male, or is it both ways? How does that fit into the picture here?
Yeah, I think it's more important for male to female, although women should contemplate. I mean, if gals are watching this, that they shouldn't be dealing with a guy that doesn't really like them either. But I think for men, it's more important because women's sexual strategy, their dating strategy, if you will, it appears to be their hypergamous nature. And all that means is that women prefer to date across and up on the socioeconomic scale.
Right.
They don't like to date down. So they will date down on a short-term basis. Like it's why a woman will sleep with a guy that's just been out of jail, covered in tattoos, riding a motorcycle, who has nothing to his name, or a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of because he looks like a bad boy, right? Yeah. So that short-term strategy still exists for them. But for the most part, women, because they're hypergamous, they want guys either at their level or preferably better than them, right? Mm-hmm. So genuine burning desire is an indicator. It's if you look at the barometer, you're going to have an idea what the weather's like outside. So it's an indicator, and it's why I'm constantly referring to only choose women that choose you, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not just to choose you, but it's to have genuine desire for you, meaning other men will appear invisible to her, right? If she has genuine burning desire for you, if you say something like, when she comes at you and says, "Where do we stand? I dig your vibe," like the talk again, and you say to her, "Yeah, that's good, but I can't take a woman seriously that posts provocative pictures online." "Okay, no problem. I'll just delete my Instagram." Uh-huh. That's what a woman with genuine burning desire will say to you. She won't argue with you. She won't call you insecure. She'll absolutely just say, "Here, let's just delete it right now. I don't need it. It's not important," because she sees you as her best option. Mm-hmm. So when you invite a woman in your life, especially in the West, you've got issues with family law that can complicate your life unnecessarily. You've got all kinds of problems that can, become evident if she doesn't see you as her first choice. There's a stand-up comic. I can't remember if it was Chris Rock or Chris Tucker, but they said something along the lines of, and stand-up comedy is great because behind every joke, there's some truth, in it, obviously, which is why people laugh. And he said something along the lines of, "Ladies, the number one reason why you're pissed off today is because you're not married to your first choice. You haven't got your first choice sitting beside you." And the room erupts into laughter because it's for the most part true, right? Like women usually have to settle when it comes to marriage. They don't often get their first choice. They get their second or third choice or something like that. So again, if you're going to have kids with a woman, why would you do it with a woman that doesn't genuinely have burning desire for you? I'll give you a real example. And I talk about this in my book. I mentioned how women will break rules for alpha males, but make them for beta males. So I'm sitting down on this date with this gal. We're having a sip on the drink. She wasn't my style. Like it was one of these, situations where she ended up being taller and heavier than she looked in her photographs. But I'm like, she's pretty and she's funny. So let's have a drink. So we're sitting down there and she proceeds to tell me how, she doesn't get intimate with a guy until at least 8 dates. And I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm not interested in her anyway. So I'm just going to say what's on my mind, which is just how I operate. And I just said to her, I go, look, like I don't negotiate desire. I don't do the back and forth thing where there's rules here and you have to cross the line here and I have to jump through. Like, that's not how I roll. Like I only deal with genuine intimacy, like a woman that genuinely wants me. And it dawned upon me when she said to me right after that, she was drinking her drink. She put down her drink and she looked me in my eyes and her pupils dilated and she got very serious. And mind you, I was only sitting at the table with her for about 15 minutes at the time. Like we just got our drinks. She goes, fine, let's go to the bathroom and fuck right now. And I thought, wow, that's interesting, right? So that is a woman that is like, she's testing you to see where you are, whether you're an alpha male or a beta male. When she realizes where you stand, because you're not going to put up with her bullshit, and you say, no, then she immediately resorts to her most powerful tool, which is her sexuality. Right. And let's go to the bathroom and do it. Right. So that there is genuine burning desire, for me at that time. I mean, I didn't have it for her. I didn't do it. We just wrapped up the date sort of thing, 40 minutes later after the drink. But that's a good example of what that looks like. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here, and pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.